Rain was falling slowly, making soft sounds on the empty street. A young man named Armin sat alone on a broken bench under a flickering streetlight. His clothes were wet. His eyes were tired. His hands were shaking. In his hand, he held an old, torn piece of paper. On the paper, only one sentence was written: "Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship." Denzel Washington Armin looked at those words again and again. He didn't understand them when he first heard them. He ignored the advice. He thought it was just another quote, just another line from a speech. But now, he was starting to feel the pain of not listening. Just 3 years ago, Armin was full of dreams. He wanted to be successful, rich, respected. He wanted to help his parents, buy a car, live a good life. But every time he had a chance to work hard, he chose the easy way. He skipped classes. He failed his college exams. He said, "I'll try later." He started things and left them halfway. He would wake up late, waste time scrolling on his phone, hang out with friends who had no goals. People warned him. Teachers tried to help. Even his mother once said, "Beta, one day you will regret wasting this time." But he smiled and replied, "Life is long, Amma. I'll be fine." Now, at 24, nothing was fine. He had no job, no money, no respect, no plan. His friends had moved on. Some were working in offices. Some got married. Some went abroad. And Armin? He was stuck in the same place, same room, same broken dreams. That night, while scrolling on YouTube, he found a video, Denzel Washington's speech at university. He had seen it before, long ago. But this time, something felt different. He clicked play. Denzel's voice was calm but powerful. Dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. Armin froze. Those words hit his heart like a hammer. He paused the video and looked around his dark room. The walls were empty. The window was broken. His phone was cracked. And his heart? It was full of regret. He whispered to himself, "Maybe I was wrong." The next morning, Armin went to his old college. He sat on the same bench where he used to laugh with friends. Now he was alone. Some students passed by, looking at him like he was a stranger. He heard one of them say, "Wasn't he the guy who failed again and again?" Shame filled his chest. His eyes became red. He looked up at the sky and said, "God, give me one more chance." Suddenly he remembered something. His teacher once printed a quote and gave it to him. He never read it, but he still had it. He ran home, opened an old book, and there it was, the paper, torn, faded, but still clear. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. Armin sat on his bed and stared at the quote for hours. Slowly, the meaning became clear. He realized that he always ran from pain, from work, from effort. He always chose comfort, but comfort gave him nothing. Hard work? He never tried long enough to know. That night, he took a marker and wrote the quote on his wall. Then he looked in the mirror and said, "From today, I will do the hard things. I will try even if I fail." But deep inside, fear was still there. What if it's too late? What if he can't change? He didn't know the answers, but for the first time, he was ready to try. And as the rain outside stopped and the first light of morning touched his face, Armin closed his eyes and made a promise. "I will never ignore this advice again." Armin's room was quiet. The quote on the wall stood out like a warning. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. But even after writing it, Armin didn't change overnight. The next morning, he woke up late again. He picked up his phone. He scrolled through social media, laughed at memes, watched useless videos. Minutes became hours, just like always. He told himself, "I'll start from tomorrow. Today I just need to relax." That tomorrow had come many times, and every time he said the same thing. This comfort, this laziness. It felt soft, easy, safe. He didn't need to face rejection. He didn't need to be judged. He didn't need to work hard. All he needed to do was nothing. But deep inside, something was changing. That quote on the wall kept looking at him like an open eye. He tried to ignore it, but it stayed in his mind. One afternoon, his friend, Samir, came to visit. Samir looked different. Clean shirt, a watch, and a new job badge. "Bro, why don't you do something?" Samir asked. "Even a small job. I can refer you." Armin smiled lazily. "I'm not ready yet. I need time." Samir looked disappointed. "You've been saying that for 2 years." That evening, Armin sat alone again. He remembered his college days, when he used to laugh, dream, make big plans. He was the most confident one among his group. Now he avoided meeting those same friends. He ignored calls. He didn't want them to see what he had become. His girlfriend Zoya had waited for him. She had encouraged him, supported him. But one day, even she gave up. "I can't be with someone who doesn't even try," she said softly, tears in her eyes. "I loved you, but you don't love your own future." That sentence broke something inside Armin. He spent weeks lying, in bed, doing nothing. The house felt darker. His parents no longer asked him about his plans. They had lost hope. His father, once a strong man, now walked slowly with a cane. His mother worked in the kitchen silently. Their eyes spoke of silent pain. But still, Armin stayed in his bubble of comfort. He didn't want to face the world. He didn't want to fail again. He didn't want to feel weak. Then one night, the electricity went out. The fan stopped. The room became hot. His phone had no battery. For the first time in weeks, there was complete silence. In that darkness, Armin felt something strange. Shame. He got up and walked to the mirror. He couldn't see his face clearly, but he could feel it. Tired, lost, and weak. He whispered to himself, "What am I doing with my life?" He sat near the window and looked at the stars. Far away, he saw someone sweeping the street. An old man, maybe 60, working at midnight, slowly moving his broom step by step, and Armin thought, "That man is doing something. He's tired, but he's useful. What am I?" The next morning, his father called him quietly. "Beta, can you go and bring medicine for me?" Armin nodded. He went outside after many days. The sun felt harsh. The streets were busy. People were rushing to work. He felt like a stranger in his own city. At the pharmacy, he saw a boy from his school, Faizan, wearing a tie, looking confident, talking politely to customers. Faizan saw him and smiled kindly. "Arman. Long time, bro." "You working nearby?" Arman lied. "Yeah, just helping my dad." Faizan nodded and said, "Good, man. Don't waste time. Life's too short." Those words echoed in Armin's head. Life's too short. That evening, Armin sat in his room and opened YouTube again. He searched. Denzel Washington motivational speech full. He watched it, fully this time. No skipping. To achieve your goals, you must apply discipline and consistency. You have to work at it, every day. Denzel's voice felt like a punch to his chest. Armin paused the video. He looked around at his dirty room. Clothes on the chair, dishes on the table, trash on the floor. He stood up slowly. He picked up a shirt and folded it, then a plate. Then he cleaned the room. That night, he didn't scroll on his phone. He wrote in a notebook for the first time. Wake up at 7 a.m., walk for 30 minutes. Read 1 page. Help Dad. No phone after 10 p.m. They were small steps, but they were real. Arman looked at the quote again. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. And for the first time, he said to himself, "Comfort is killing. Me, it's time to fight back." The morning was quiet. Sunlight touched Armand's face as he opened his eyes. For the first time in months, he had woken up before 7 a.m. He didn't hit snooze. He didn't check his phone. He just sat on his bed and looked at the notebook where he had written his small goals. He smiled weakly and whispered, "Let's begin." He wore old running shoes and stepped out. The streets were still sleepy. The air was fresh. He walked slowly, breathing deeply like he was learning to live again. Every step felt heavy, but also healing. For the first week, Armand kept it simple. Walk. Read. Help his father. Stay away from useless scrolling. It was hard. The mind kept pulling him back into comfort. But the quote on his wall reminded him every day, "Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship." Then, one morning, everything changed. His father collapsed in the kitchen. "Ami! Abu!" Armand shouted. They rushed him to the hospital. The doctor said his father's blood pressure was very low. He needed rest, medicine, and regular care. The hospital bill was high. Armand's mother opened her purse with shaking hands. Her savings were not enough. Armand stood there, helpless, as his mother cried silently in the corner of the hospital room. That night, he sat outside the hospital on a cold bench. His head was in his hands. He whispered, "I couldn't even save my own father. What kind of son am I?" For hours, he didn't move. People walked past him, busy with their own lives. The world didn't stop for his pain. He felt small, broken. Suddenly, a nurse came and sat near him. "Are you okay?" she asked kindly. Armand nodded slowly. She looked at him and said, "You're not the only one struggling, but don't give up. Pain can wake us up if we let it." Those words stayed with him. The next day, he made a decision. "I have to earn money. No more wasting time." But finding a job wasn't easy. He had no degree, no experience, no skills. He walked to shops, asked in restaurants, even applied to be a delivery boy. But everyone said the same thing. "Sorry, we need someone better." One day, while walking past a garage, he saw a man shouting at a young worker. The boy quit and walked away. Armand took a deep breath and stepped in. "Uncle, I'll work, any job, anything." The garage owner looked at his soft hands and laughed. "You? You don't look like someone who can handle oil and dirt." "I'll learn," Armand said. "Please, I need this." The man gave him a mop. "Clean the floor first. Let's see." Armand cleaned the floor like his life depended on it. He worked in the heat, with sweat dripping down his face, his clothes dirty with grease. For the next few weeks, he worked quietly, cleaning, tools, running errands, helping the mechanics. At night, he would come home, take a bath, and open his notebook. He added new goals. Learn about engines. Watch one motivational video. Save 100 rupees daily. Speak kindly to parents. Control anger. He was changing slowly, step by step. One day at the garage, the mechanic asked him, "Why are you doing this? You look educated." Armand replied, "Because I ignored life for too long. Now I'm paying the price." At home, his father started getting better. Armand bought the medicines with his own money. His mother's eyes filled with tears when he handed her the change. He felt something new, pride. One night, he sat in front of his old mirror and stared at himself. His face had changed. It looked tired but stronger. He said softly, "I'm not the same person anymore." He opened YouTube and watched Denzel's speech again. "You will fail at some point. You will lose. You will suck at something. But don't quit." Armand smiled. He paused the video and whispered, "I failed. I lost. But I didn't quit." Later that week, his old friend Samir called. "Bro, I saw your picture at the garage. You're really doing this?" "Yes," Armand replied. "For the first time, I'm doing something real." Samir was silent for a moment. Then he said, "I respect that, man. Let me know if I can help. That call gave Armin new energy. He realized something. People respect effort. Even if you're at the bottom, if you're trying, they'll see you. The comfort he once loved now felt like poison. The struggle he once feared now felt like freedom, because this time, Armin wasn't running from pain, he was running through it. The garage smelled of oil, dust, and sweat. But for Armin, it had become a place of rebirth. Every morning, he reached early, even before the shutters opened. He cleaned tools, swept the floor, and greeted everyone with respect. He was no longer the boy who used to sleep till noon. He was changing, and people were noticing. The head mechanic, Ralph By, called him one day. "You've got discipline, Armin," he said while wiping his greasy hands. "That's rare these days. Want to learn how to fix a tire?" Armin's face lit up. "Yes, please," he replied without thinking. That was the first time someone offered to teach him a skill. Ralph By handed him a heavy tire and showed him how to remove the bolts. "Your hands will hurt," he warned. "But pain is your teacher now." Armin didn't stop. He stayed after hours, watching videos on engines, brakes, and parts. He wrote notes in his small notebook. His nails became black with grease, his back ached, but his heart felt alive. At home, things were improving. His father was now walking without support. His mother smiled more. Armand started bringing small things for the house, milk, bread, even flowers once for his mother. She held his face and whispered, "I prayed for this version of you." But outside the house, the world still doubted him. One afternoon, Armand saw his old college friends eating at a cafe. They laughed loudly, wearing clean clothes, carrying laptops. He stood at a distance, wearing his dusty garage shirt. He thought about walking away. But then, he walked toward them. "Armand?" one of them said. "You work at that garage?" Armand smiled and said proudly, "Yes, and I'm learning more there than I ever did in class." They looked confused, maybe even embarrassed. But Armand didn't care anymore. He had nothing to prove to anyone. That same week, something unexpected happened. A local youth center announced an event, inspiring young voices, inviting people to share their personal stories of struggle and change. The top 3 speakers would receive free mentorship in career development. At first, Armin laughed at the poster. "Me? A speaker?" But Ralph By said, "Why not? You've been through fire. Now it's your turn to light others." Armin thought about it for a night. He looked at the quote on his wall again. "Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship." And then he filled out the form. The event was 1 week away. Every night, Armand practiced his speech in front of a mirror. His voice would break, his hands would shake. But he kept trying. He remembered everything. The time he wasted, the people he hurt, the job rejections, the hospital bench, the first mop at the garage. Every memory was now a line in his speech, inane. The day of the event, Armand wore a simple shirt and borrowed shoes from Ralph By. As he entered the hall, his heart pounded. The stage looked massive. Lights felt too bright. People were whispering, recording videos. When his name was called, his legs trembled. He stepped on the stage and stood in silence for a moment. Then he looked at the crowd and said, 3 years ago, I was nobody. Not because I was poor, but because I was lazy. I wanted a big life, but didn't want to work for it. I thought success would come to me, but all it gave me was regret." The room became silent. One day I heard a voice, Denzel Washington. He said, "Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship." I didn't believe it back then, but life made me understand it. I lost friends. I lost love. I almost lost my father. But pain woke me up. He paused. Now I work at a garage. I fix tires, I clean floors, but I sleep with peace, because for the first time, I'm not running from life. I'm walking with it. Some people in the crowd had tears in their eyes. Others nodded. He ended his speech with one final line. If you're stuck in comfort, get out. That comfort is not your friend. It's your slow death. As he walked off the stage, the crowd clapped, not just politely, but with emotion. People came to shake his hand, pat his back, thank him for his honesty. One of the judges, a middle-aged woman, handed him a card. I run a small NGO for skill development, she said. We need someone like you to guide our students. Are you interested? Arman was shocked. He took the card, nodded slowly, and said, Yes, I'm ready. That night, Arman sat on his rooftop, looking at the stars again. But this time, he didn't feel lost. He didn't feel weak. He felt alive. He whispered to himself, that speech wasn't just my first step. It was my first flight. The next morning, Arman woke up before sunrise, just like every day. But something was different. He felt lighter, braver. The speech night had changed something inside him. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was becoming someone. As he walked into the garage, Ralph Bai greeted him with a smile and a firm pat on the back. I saw the video, he said. It's going viral. You've got something special, Arman. Arman laughed shyly. It's just my story. No, Ralph Bai said. It's your truth, and truth moves people. Later that day, Arman got a call from the youth center. Congratulations, the voice said on the phone. You're one of the top 3. You'll get mentorship free, career sessions, and public speaking training. Arman closed his eyes. For a moment, he couldn't speak. He had never won anything before, not in school, not in college. And now, his pain had become his power. That night, he didn't watch any motivational video. He just sat with his parents and talked about their dreams. His mother cried silently, wiping tears with her dupatta. We thought we lost you, she said. You brought me back, Arman replied, holding her hand. Over the next few weeks, Arman started attending evening classes at the youth center. He learned how to speak better, how to present, how to guide others. The mentors were kind but strict. They corrected his posture, his tone, his message, but Arman didn't mind. He had already faced the biggest enemy, his own laziness. Now everything else was just a lesson. One of the mentors, Sir Fahim, asked him one day, "What do you want to do next?" Arman paused. For the first time, he had a real answer. "I want to help others like me," he said. "The lost ones, the lazy ones, the scared ones." Sir Fahim smiled. "That's your breakthrough, Arman. You've found your purpose." Meanwhile, the video of Arman's speech kept spreading online. People shared it with captions like, "This boy reminded me of myself." Every young person needs to hear this. This is not just motivation. It's reality. Even his old college teacher messaged him, "Proud of you, Arman. You turned your failure into fuel." Samir, his friend, called again. "I showed your video to my office team. They were shocked. No one believed you were the same guy." Arman laughed. "I barely believe it myself." One day, the NGO lady, Ms. Saima, called him again. "We're organizing a workshop next week," she said. "Can you come and speak to the students?" Arman agreed. When he entered the classroom, 25 young faces looked at him. Some bored, some tired, some curious. He started simply, "I used to waste my time on the bed you're sitting on. Now I stand here because I stopped blaming and started working." He told them everything, not just the good parts, but the shame, the guilt, the nights he cried on the hospital bench. When he finished, the room was silent. Then one boy raised his hand and asked, "But what if I'm too late?" Arman smiled and replied, "If you're still breathing, it's not too late. But if you stay the same tomorrow, it might be." The boy nodded slowly. Others clapped. After that workshop, Ms. Saima walked him to the gate and said, "You should start your own sessions. Make this a full-time mission." Arman thought about it. Could he do that? Could a garage worker really become a guide? He remembered Denzel's words again. You have to work at it. Every day, you have to plan, prepare, and never give up. So, he did. He created a small YouTube channel called The Wake Up Project. He uploaded his speech, then another video called Comfort is a Lie, then another one, From the Garage to the Mic. In the beginning, only 50 people watched. But Armin didn't stop. He posted one video every week. Simple words, real stories, no drama, no acting, just truth. People started messaging him. I was depressed. You helped me. Your video made me quit my addiction. I finally applied for a job after 6 months. And slowly, something happened that Armin never imagined. His videos crossed 1,000 views, then 5,000, then 20,000. One day, he opened his inbox and found an invitation. We would like to invite Armin Khan to speak at the National Youth Conference as a guest speaker. He sat in silence, staring at the screen. He remembered the broken mirror, the dirty plates, the hospital bench, the garage floor. Now he was being called a speaker. That night, Armin stood on his rooftop again. He looked at the stars, then at the city lights. He whispered to himself, This is what breakthrough feels like. Armin sat in front of the mirror, wearing a white shirt, a new blazer, and polished shoes. It was the morning of the National Youth Conference, from a garage boy to a national speaker. The moment felt surreal. His mother stood behind him, fixing his collar with gentle hands. You look like a star, she whispered. Armin smiled, but his heart was beating fast. Not from fear, but from something else. Pride. The event was held in a huge auditorium. Red carpet, bright lights, cameras, fancy banners. Armin entered quietly. But people noticed him. That's him, someone said. The garage guy who changed his life. People came up for selfies, handshakes, even short interviews. Sir, your speech changed my life. Sir, I follow your YouTube channel. Sir, one picture, please. Sir? It sounded strange. Just a few months ago, no one respected him. Now everyone was looking at him like a hero. At first it felt good, but slowly, it started getting into his head. When the host introduced him on stage, the applause was loud. He stood at the podium and smiled. But this time, his speech felt different. He wasn't speaking from pain. He was speaking from pride. His words were strong, his voice confident. But something was missing. The raw honesty, the pain that made people feel connected. After the event, he got lots of praise. But one message stood out. It was from Sir Fahim, his mentor. Well done, Armin, but be careful. Don't let attention become your addiction. Armin read it twice. Then again. He knew what Fahim Sir meant. That night, Armin went live on YouTube. Hundreds of people joined. He answered questions, talked about success, motivation, mindset. But one comment hit him hard. Arman bhai, आप बदल गए हो. पहले दिल से बोलते थे. अब सिर्फ लेक्चर लगता है. Arman bhai, you've changed. Earlier you spoke from the heart. Now it just feels like a lecture. He stared at the comment. It was painful, but it was true. That night, Armin couldn't sleep. His old self, the one who cried alone, who mopped garage floors, who sat by his father's hospital bed, felt far away now. He whispered to himself, Am I becoming the same person I once hated? The next day, he visited the garage. Ralph Bai was fixing a bike. His shirt was torn, hands black with grease. Array, superstar Ayahai. Ralph Bai laughed. Forgot us small people? Armand smiled, but it stung a little. He sat down quietly. On the same bench where he once used to eat bread and chai? I think I'm changing, Armand said. Not in a good way. Ralph Bai looked at him, serious now. Arman, you cleaned engines, but don't let dirt enter your heart. Ego is the silent killer of growth. Those words hit him deeply. Later, Arman took a long walk alone. No phone, no selfies, no followers, just him and his thoughts. He remembered something Denzel once said. Don't confuse movement with progress. You can run in place all day and not move forward. Arman realized he was moving fast. But was he still growing? He had started for the right reasons, but now fame was pulling him into the wrong direction. He reached the hospital again, the same one where his father had once collapsed. He sat on the same bench. He looked around. Different people, different pain, but the same silence, the same feeling of helplessness. He closed his eyes and whispered, I won't forget this pain. I won't let pride kill my purpose. The next day, he deleted one video from his channel, the one that had the most views, but the least truth. Then he posted a new one. The title was, I let fame distract me, but I'm back now. In the video, he spoke with honesty again. Forgot where I came from. I started chasing likes instead of purpose. But today, I remind myself, success is not fame. Success is growth. Real growth. The comments flooded in. This is the Arman we loved. Respect. Very few people admit their mistakes. Back with truth. A few days later, he visited the NGO again. He didn't go as a guest. He didn't go with a camera. He just sat with the students on the floor and listened to their problems. One boy was struggling with addiction. Another girl had anxiety about her future. Arman didn't give them advice. He just told them stories. Real, raw, honest stories. And that's when he realized something important. People don't need a perfect hero. They need someone who's been in the dark and still found the light. That night, he sat with his mother. She poured chai and asked, Are you happy now? Arman smiled softly. I was chasing something shiny, but I think I've found something better. What's that? She asked. He looked at her and said, Peace. Arman no longer cared about numbers, likes, views, shares. What mattered now was impact. His days were no longer filled with notifications and attention. Instead, they were filled with real conversations. He spent mornings at the garage, evenings at the youth center, and weekends recording videos that came from his heart, not for fame, but to help. But one morning changed everything. It was a rainy Sunday when Arman received a phone call. It was from an old friend, Aman, someone he hadn't spoken to in years. They were close during college, until Arman's laziness and arrogance pushed everyone away. Can we meet? Aman asked. It's important. They met at a quiet tea stall. Aman looked tired, older, worn out. He stirred his tea slowly, eyes avoiding Arman's. I saw your video, he finally said. You changed, bro, but I didn't. Arman listened silently. Aman looked up with teary eyes. I lost my job last year. My wife left. I drink now. I messed up everything. There was a long pause. Do you think it's too late for me? Arman looked him in the eyes and said gently, You're asking the same question I once asked myself. And the answer is no, it's not too late if you're ready to start today. Aman broke down crying right there in the middle of the street. Arman put a hand on his shoulder. That moment stayed in Arman's heart. That day he realized something deeper. Maybe this is what he was meant to do, not just speak, but rescue. One broken heart at a time. That evening, Arman sat at his desk and began writing a plan. He didn't want to just be a speaker or a YouTuber. He wanted to build something bigger, a space where people like Aman could get help, healing, and hope. He called it Project Second Chance. Within 1 week, he contacted mentors, counselors, and skill trainers. He pitched them his idea. There are hundreds of boys like me out there, wasting time, feeling lost, battling depression or addiction. What if we create a small center? Just one room to start, where they can come and learn how to restart their life? Some people ignored him, others laughed, but a few said, yes. With the little savings he had from speaking events and his YouTube channel, Armand rented a small basement near the garage. It was old and dusty, but for him, it was gold. He cleaned it himself, painted the walls white, bought second-hand chairs, and printed a small board outside. Project Second Chance. Walk in, don't. Give up. The first day, only 2 people came. One was a boy who dropped out of school. The other was a man in his 30s who hadn't worked in 3 years. Armand didn't act like a boss. He sat with them, shared his story again, and listened to theirs. He didn't teach them from books. He taught them from failures, from pain, from real life. He showed them how to create a daily routine, how to wake up early, how to find small jobs, how to handle rejection, and how to take responsibility without shame. Weeks passed. From 2 people, the number grew to 5, then 12, then 25. One day, Armin walked into the center and saw something beautiful. Aman, the same friend who once cried at the tea stall, was now leading a small session. He was clean, confident, smiling. Today we talk about discipline, Aman said to the group. Armand's eyes filled with tears. This was no longer just a basement. It had become a lighthouse for the broken, but success always brings new tests. A large company reached out to Armand. They offered to sponsor Project Second Chance fully. We'll give you better space, more tools, higher reach, the man said on the call. Armand's heart beat faster, but there was a catch. We want full control. You'll work under our brand name, and we'll choose the content. Armand sat quietly. He thought about the bench outside the hospital, the garage floor, the students who cried during sessions, the friend who found hope again, and then he said, "No, thank you. My story isn't for sale." He chose purpose over profit. That night, he stood on the roof again. The stars seemed closer now. He whispered to the sky, "I don't need to be rich. I just need to be real." By the end of the month, Project Second Chance helped over 50 young people. Some found jobs, some returned to school, some just found the courage to live again. And everywhere he went, Armand reminded them, "Your pain is not a full stop. It's just a comma. Keep writing your story." The air was cool as Armand stood at the back of the hall, looking at the stage in front of him. The banner above read, "Voices of Change, Youth, Heroes of the Nation." He was the closing speaker, the final one. 5 years ago, he was lying on a broken bed, scrolling aimlessly, ignoring advice, feeling like a failure. Now people waited to hear his advice. But even today, Armand didn't feel like a hero. He still remembered the taste of regret, the weight of shame, the sound of his mother crying behind a closed door. And that's what kept him grounded. As his name was announced, the crowd clapped. He walked up slowly, calmly, not with the pride of a celebrity, but with the responsibility of someone who had lived the pain of others. He stood at the mic, looked around, then began. 5 years ago, I ignored advice from people who truly cared. I laughed at motivational videos. I said, "This is not for me." I wasted time. I blamed others. I wanted results, but not effort. Then my father collapsed, and my world broke. In that silence, I heard a voice that I had ignored all my life. The voice of truth. He paused. That voice didn't scream. It whispered. And it said, "If you don't change now, you will be nothing." The hall was completely silent. He looked down at his hands, then back at the audience. Today, people call me a speaker, But I'm just a reminder. A reminder that your future is not built by luck. It's built by daily decisions. He then turned to the screen behind him and played a short clip. It was a video of Project Second Chance. The basement room, young boys, and girls learning skills, smiles, tears, growth. The audience watched with soft eyes. Some wiped their tears. He turned back to the mic and said, "We don't need more perfect people. We need more real people. People who say, yes, I failed, but I got up again. If you're lazy, depressed, lost, good. You're honest. But don't stay there. Move. Do something small. Read one page. Take one cold shower. Say one sorry. Apply to one job. Help one person. Start small, but just start." A young man in the front row raised his hand and asked, "Arman Bhai, how do you stay strong now? What keeps you going?" Arman smiled gently. "I stopped chasing success. I started chasing service. That's what keeps me strong." He walked to the edge of the stage and said his final words. "And if you forget everything I said today, just remember this. Pain is not your enemy. It's your wake-up call. Pick it up." The crowd rose, not in loud cheering, but in deep respect. That kind of silence only comes after truth has touched the heart. A few months later, Project Second Chance moved to a bigger space. Aman became the co-leader. Ralph Bhai helped train young men in basic repair work. His YouTube channel crossed 1 million subscribers, but Arman still filmed videos with his old phone, sitting on the same wooden chair. He was invited to TV shows, podcasts, even global conferences, but whenever people called him influencer or coach, he would simply reply, "I'm just someone who woke up. Now I help others wake up, too." One night, Arman sat on the same rooftop with his mother. The city lights glowed below. She handed him a cup of chai and asked softly, "Beta, what's next for you?" He smiled, looking at the stars. "Next?" he whispered. "I just want to keep reminding people that their story isn't over. Not yet."